Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Hello and welcome to The Horse Show here on Wisp Sports. This is Season 4, Episode 19. I'm Chris Stafford, and today we're going to take a walk down memory lane as we revisit an interview that I did in 2011 with Sheila Wilcox, who was a pathfinder for women in the sport of eventing. Sheila Wilcox was born on March the 12th, 1936, in Sutton Coalfield near Birmingham in England. Despite not being born into an equestrian family, she persisted from an early age with the determination that was to become the driving force of her success. She embarked on her riding career at the age of 4, with half-crowns spent for pony rides on the beach near Blackpool, and, despite the shortages of war, convinced her parents that she was treading a path to her future that shaped the sport of eventing for the inclusion of women in the Olympics. Success in the show ring began with winning the champion hack title in 1953 at White City. But it was a visit to the European Championships with her brother John a year later that convinced her that her future lay in eventing, and that consistency at the top level was attributed to fitness and conditioning, a trademark which she was to make her very own. By 1956, she had caught the British team selector's eye with the partnership she had established with High and Mighty. However, because women were not allowed in the Olympic Games, High and Mighty was sold to become available for the Stockholm Games, but unsoundness denied him a place on the team, and Sheila brought him back. Her record of 3 consecutive wins at Badminton Horse Trials is unsurpassed. Following her debut there in 1956 with High and Mighty, where they finished runner-up, they went on to take this prestigious 4-star title in 1957 and 1958. Sheila returned to take her 3rd title a year later with Airs and Graces. She also won Little Badminton in 1964, riding Glenmore. Sheila competed in the 1957 European Championships with High and Mighty, earning both team and individual gold medals. 2 years later, they also won a European team gold medal. Sheila competed successfully for several years, winning 8 major titles. However, a fall in 1971 at the Tidworth Horse Trials left her partially paralyzed, and she gave up eventing to focus on Grand Prix Dressage, with success on Sun and Air. In the mid-1970s, she took on the job of coach to the Canadian team, leading up to the 1976 Montreal Olympic Games, and including the 1975 Pan American Games. Sheila is the author of 2 books. 3 Days Running, published in 1958, was the first title ever written on the sport of eventing. The Eventors, published in 1973, became a definitive work on the preparation and competing of the event horse. Sheila is divorced and has 1 son. Sheila, thank you so much for joining us. It's an absolute delight to have you on. Of course, a personal privilege and a walk down memory lane for me too, because we worked together when you were in Canada.
Yes, indeed, yes. I mean, that, of course, is a very long time ago. I was asked by the Canadians to go to Canada, well, to really sort of try and get them going really very, very well at the top of the world.
And you certainly did that, of course, really turned their fortunes there just before the Montreal Olympics in 1976. That was an interesting turning point in your career too, as well, going from being an active competitor, and as everyone knows, and I said in my introduction how, of course, you were a pioneer for women in the sport of eventing. Sheila, do you ever reflect on that and think, my goodness, did I really do all those things?
No. No. I suppose I just had to do, I was a one-man band, probably, as everybody knows, and I did a lot of trying to sort of put new children, well, not new children, but a lot of people wanting, to sort of listen to me and all that sort of thing.
you had such a remarkable record and still holding the Badminton record of 3 consecutive wins, which is phenomenal.
That's pretty, yeah, very much so. I mean, I should think probably it'll take some time to move, won't it?
Well, I know there's a couple of people that have come very close. I mean, Pippa Fennell is one of them, of course.
That's it.
Years.
Yes, I remember her very well.
Trying very hard to break your record, but I...
Oh, how very unkind of her. What a thing to do.
William Foxpitt, of course, and all these modern riders. Do you follow the sport much these days, Sheila?
I don't, actually. It's pretty awful, isn't it? But no, I don't. I seem to be doing other things entirely.
You've moved on, and of course, you never were one to sit still. You always had an incredible work ethic. Let's go back to those early days, Sheila, and how you got involved with horses, because you had such an incredible discipline with them. Did that come from your parents? Were they very...
No,
regimented?
not at all. Absolutely not at all. I mean, my father and mother were nothing to do with horses until, of course, sort of I came along and everything happened. And we went from...
Well, in fact, it was Sutton Coalfield. I remember you. We
That's it. Good girl. Yeah, yes, Sutton Coalfield.
Sutton Coalfield, and you moved to Lytham St Anne's, wasn't it? Near Blackpool?
Now we're there. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's, of course, where you really got into your horsey activities. I believe that was actually when you go down to the beach and get sixpenny rides on the lead rein.
Absolutely, yes. My father and mother had, now what's it called, one of these things where you put all your clothes there, in the sands.
On the beach?
Yes. On the beach, yes, it was. But people used to have a little box.
That's where you used to put your clothes, and you and your brother John would go riding. Is that right?
Well, not John. No. I mean, he could ride, but I mean, he wasn't interested. He was doing other things.
Because that was at a time that I believe, there was still petrol rationing, wasn't there? And
yep.
So you either...
You came on a bike.
You came on a bike or a bus to get to the beach.
Yep. Yes.
And as you said, your parents did not come from a horsey background, but eventually,
no, not at all.
Eventually you educated them, you persuaded them and cajoled them, didn't you, over time?
Yes, and I was very lucky in the fact that there was some people, well, one person had a very big place where she lived, huge, going up a drive, all that sort of thing. Yes. And she took a sort of little thing to me, and there was the usual horsey things, which nobody was taking notice of all that time. And I said, well, could I bring the ponies in and horses in? And that's how it all started. And that went sort of for a long time.
So you were really a horse-mad girl, weren't you, in the very early days?
Yes.
And I believe you had a wonderful nickname for the first groom you ever had, Marjorie Whitehurst. Did you remember you called her Margarine?
Margarine, yes. She was lovely. She was absolutely splendid.
It helped you with those early ponies, of course, when you really got the bit between your teeth. And do you remember being a very sort of a disciplined child then in those early days, Sheila?
Yes, very much so. Very good. I'm very good on discipline.
Yes.
Very good indeed on discipline.
Well, yeah. Of course, I remember having worked with you with the Canadian team. I mean, your standard of stable management was second to none.
I mean, that knocked everybody out.
It did.
For quite some time, yeah.
Well, if I could go back to those childhood days, of course, when you had those, you got to the point where you had so many horses and ponies, a variety of shapes and sizes, and a Captain Hodgson, who was an ex-Wheaton officer, became your stud groom to help Margarine, as you called her. Yes,
that went on for some time.
Yeah, and of course he, I'm sure, being an ex-Wheaton officer himself, had an incredible standard of stable management too. Did that rub off on you?
No. No.
At that time, you had something like 23 horses of various shapes and sizes, eventually, that before your father decided it was time to sell out and slow things down a little bit.
Yeah, we didn't have that. I didn't have that much money or anything else. I mean, there was only sort of Folly. That was my first pony. And then sort of it grew up from there until I was, riding, well, all sorts of things.
Well, I remember, of course, in 1953, you won the champion hack of the show at White City with Blythe Spirit, of course.
That's right.
Called him Chips, didn't you?
Yeah, he was absolutely nothing at first, but, I was very good at sort of making horses in the nicest possible way, to become from what they were, which was pretty awful most of the time, and became, a real super horse. Very nice horse.
Now, what do you think was your influence then, Sheila, to be so good at such an early age? Because, as you said, you produced Blythe Spirit into a champion hack, and you obviously had a talent for that at a very early age.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, it was, it doesn't, I can remember, I used to sort of watch a horse and sort of say, wow, look at that, etc., etc. And, when I had my first horse, and we didn't have anywhere to put a horse, because we only had a little place of our own, a proper place to live.
Do you remember, though, when you look back on your childhood, Sheila, who would have been influential to you? Which horsemen and women were you watching that were your mentors at those early days?
That's a very difficult one, because I'm very sort of one by itself sort of thing. I would watch them when I didn't have anything sort of big horses or anything like that, and say that could be far and way better than it is. And ultimately, sort of with my father, he said, look, if it's that good, we'll buy it. And it went on like that.
Remarkable. And there was a time then, after Blythe Spirit, of course, winning the champion hack, when you sold him, and you took off to South Africa for a while, didn't you? And do you remember that adventure?
No, I think is the answer to that.
Well, it was back in the early 50s. I'm stretching your memory a little bit here, Sheila, but the point I'm coming to is that even when you came back, you were still determined, despite parental opposition, to find another horse and to kick on with your horsey career, and that's when you started eventing.
Yes, I was lucky in that where we lived when we went up from the south, up north, there was a great big place, a huge place.
There were some marvellous events, of course, in those days up in the north.
Indeed there were.
No longer running, but I believe it was at this time that High and Mighty came into your life, wasn't it? And you also called him Chips in the stable.
Yes, he was Chips as well.
Just to make it easier for your father.
Yes, because he couldn't remember anything. Wasn't very good at remembering things.
Well, High and Mighty obviously was one of those lifetime partners, wasn't he? Extraordinary success with him.
He was absolutely nothing at first, but of course he and I, most of the horses that I ever had, soon, they sort of came in and didn't know anything, etc., etc. But I was very, very careful about training, very, very careful indeed. And it made a hell of a difference. When I had my first pony, she was only sort of a little thing.
Little Folly.
Little Folly, yes.
Now, with High and Mighty, or Chips as you called him, of course, you went on, you were second at Badminton in 1956, as I said earlier, and you won again then in 57 and 58, and then in 59, you won with Airs and Graces. This was an interesting time in the period of the sport's development, because the British team wanted to have High and Mighty, wanted Chips on the team, but because women were not a part of the Olympic Games.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right, yes. Yeah.
And so you actually sold him, I believe.
Yes, and then bought him back again.
And then bought him back. So you sold him to Ted Marsh.
That's right, yes.
I bet you don't remember what you sold a horse of that value in those days, do you?
Oh, my golly, no.
He would be worth a lot of money today.
Oh, a huge amount, yes, that's certain.
Because, of course, you did so well with him yourself, twice European champion team.
Yes, and that should have been third, by the way, because it was knocked off.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yes. They sort of said, no, can't have her. There was so much of that with the men, you see, sort of horrified that a girl took over. There was a lot of that, quite nasty.
Well, at one point that you went over to Basel in Switzerland, I believe, to watch the European Championships. I think it was 1954.
Yeah.
But that was only on the condition that when you got back, your parents wanted you to pursue a secretarial job and take your mind off the horses.
Yes, well, I mean, that was hopeful on my mother's part. I think she thought with horses, well, it's all very well, but...
What was interesting, though, that while you were there, I believe, it actually, watching those championships, gave you the first sense of how important it was to get horses properly fit, Sheila.
Yes. Well, it was very important to me. Sort of I always sort of wanted to do things 100% properly, very much so. And that anybody who came to me, was warned, sort of that, I do work very hard. But, sort of it's to show, or at least what happens is that because of that, you do extremely well.
Well, exactly. You only get out what you put in, and there was an amazing work ethic.
Quite right.
Yes, extraordinary work ethic. And interesting, looking at those pictures, Sheila, from those days, is how many horses all lined up on the team there. They're in snaffle bridles with the Cavison noseband. There's no martingales. There's no boots.
No.
Very, very simple in those days, but very effective. And one can look at pictures of you where your riding position is absolutely perfect.
Oh, well, that's nice.
And it is extraordinary to look at the simplicity of the sport in those days and to see how successful you were there was no bells and whistles or, gadgets. You did it in a very authentic way. Yes.
Well, I'm the sort of person who can't help but do it properly, or not at all.
And of course you were very, very strict to many young people, and not least of all when I was a young girl. Very intimidating too, I might say.
Oh dear, what a shame. But then, of course, if you really want to sort of learn, and do it the right way, as far as I'm concerned, it's the only way to do it, isn't it?
It certainly is, and what a wonderful, wonderful experience it was, I may say. But I want to just remind you of some wonderful pictures back in those days of team training for the European Championships in the 50s. Alongside you were Virginia Gilligan with Jungle Queen.
Yes.
Colonel Frank Weldon with Kilbarry.
Yes, he was lethal.
Yeah.
He was lethal. I mean, because, you can imagine sort of somebody like that, certainly thinking that of a girl in particular, and I was put on the team. And then one particular thing, which probably I shouldn't say, but when we were where were we?
Could you have been in Turin in 1955? That was the European Championships you were training for.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in Copenhagen, the 1957 Europeans as well. And one person who was very influential, I think, to you in terms of those good old schoolmasters, Sheila, was Captain Eddie Goldman, wasn't he?
Oh, yes. Yeah. And he was very, very good in the very early days. And I used to go to his place, which was quite something, back and forth. Not easy for me, because I didn't have a lot of money, all that sort of thing. Well, he was very good. I mean, he was the one that I sort of looked at and thought, this is the one I should follow, to a certain extent anyway. He was great.
Do you have other people that you have considered to have been really influential in the sport over the years that you've watched, Sheila, in any country?
I think Mary.
Mary King?
Yeah. I mean, I taught her a lot, a huge amount.
Well, yes, of course, she spent a long time with you, I think, as a working pupil, and a wonderful grounding that you gave her to be the horsewoman she is and the competitor that she is today. Yeah,
she was very good. I mean, she did what I do. Really worked hard.
Yes. Yes, and that really has shown. Well, I want to also just, if I may, staying in the 50s there for a minute, Sheila, because it was a time when you were making such inroads in so far as women in the sport and how influential you could be and how successful you could be. But along with that came the early days of media attention and TV and radio, and I believe you spent your time in the TV studios and behind the radio microphone. How did you respond really to the media interest then? Was it something you took in your stride, or how did
Yes, I was lucky like that. I was good about that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. I could sort of throw that at them quite happily. Nicely.
Yes, nice.
That's quite the wrong way to put it. Oh, Lord.
But that must have been fascinating for you to watch how the media were paying attention to you and to the sport in those days.
Yes, I suppose so. Mm. I mean, again, I was so sort of busy with the horses and everything else and various other things. It was when I tell you what, when I went to Canada.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm.
And there, of course, you garnered more interest whilst you were coach to the Canadian team, took them down to Mexico to the Pan American Games.
Yeah. Yes.
Did you relish being a coach to anyone? Was that a part of your career that you thoroughly enjoyed, the training of the people and the horses?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I had to buy several horses, and then sort of put them right, as it were.
Yes. Well, you're certainly able to do that, and you also found some marvellous names for your horses, didn't you? You always had... where did that all start? The high and mighty, the airs and graces, the sun and air.
That's right.
You always linked the two words. Was that your idea?
Yes, very much so, yeah. And that worked awfully well.
Well, it did, and they were indeed memorable. But you talked about some people that were maybe not welcoming you to the sport in those early days. But was there anything that intimidated you? How did you overcome adversity in the sport? So as you said, you overcame adversity, but you had such a strong character to stand up to any opposition that you had, didn't you? Yes,
and when I went to Canada, yes. And there was a chap there, I can't remember his name, but he was the Canadian sort of big boy. And, of course, he was very, very unhelpful as far as I was concerned. That a woman should sort of come and say, look, you've got to do this now and you've got to do that now. He didn't like it one bit.
Well, you have also came adversity in the form of that awful accident that you had that changed your career.
Indeed.
When you look back on that now, it came at obviously a very, very difficult time for you when you were doing so well as an event rider. You obviously had to stop and reflect on what you wanted to do next, and you turned very successfly to dressage.
Yes, indeed, yes. Yes, because a lot of the people, you see, sort of wouldn't have done that. But I mean, I like anything like with the horses. And sort of look at them, etc., buy them, all that sort of thing, train them. Yes. It was wonderful for me, I thought, and for my father in particular. My mother was always saying, sort of, there's no money left, which there wasn't to start with. Mind afterwards. So I had to work very hard, sort of earning some money.
Well, you certainly did, and they were a marvellous support to you. I think they trailed you around the country, didn't they?
Oh, yes, they were marvellous people.
And so you really had the support, and then, of course, and your brother John, he was supportive too.
Yes, didn't like it much. Well, he was busy. He had his own things, as it were.
Yes. Well, you were recognised, of course, with so many awards over the years, the Tony Collins Memorial, the Calcutta Light Horse Trophies, leading horse, leading rider, and not least of all, of course, all the medals that you won, Sheila, as well as the records at three-day events like Badminton and so on. When you look back, and if I can now take you back to look at those achievements, which of those accomplishments are you most proud of?
No, that is a very hard one. I think the best thing that I did and was able to do was to sort of go round the various places where sort of they're putting horses up. And you go and sort of buy them, obviously, if you want to.
Yes.
And I was very good at that. I was very lucky to be good at that.
Wonderful to hear you reminisce and look back at, at what were, really significant milestones in the sport and your influence on the sport, Sheila. I mean, that.
Yes, I certainly think that sort of stayed, as it were. Mm.
Yes, and that must be something that you're very proud of now when you do reflect.
Yes, mind you, I don't reflect very much. I'm on other things, etc.
When you look at riding and the context in your life, what has given you the most meaning in terms of your riding? What was most meaningful to you? What, as a person, what do you think it instilled in you?
I think sort of really. I mean, I used to go to a lot of places and look at horses. And buy things that probably nobody else would do, and sort of make them into something really first class, which always sort of shocked everybody.
It was having that eye for a horse, wasn't it?
Yes, definitely. Yes, I mean they weren't sort of smart horses by any means that I used to buy. And people would say, sort of, well, what's this one? It's a really good horse. I said, yes, but that's the one that you saw the other day, or whatever it might have been.
Yes. Yes. You could really turn rags to riches, couldn't you?
Yes. Yeah, I was good at that.
Yes, you were very good at that. And when you watch the sport today and young people coming in the sport from the distance, as you said now, you're no longer really hands-on or involved with the sport, but would you have any message to young people that want to make this sport their career?
I think that they have to realise that it's hard work,
yes.
Very hard work. I mean, it's also marvellous, but it is hard work, if you want to get up to the top.
Yes, it certainly is. And now you have time to do other things. Do you have time to enjoy sort of music and the arts and theatre? What do you enjoy these days, Sheila?
I mean, I'm nothing to do with the horses, as you probably know.
Yes. But you enjoy music, do you? And
yes.
Did you pick up a horse magazine at all, or a horse book?
I think as one gets older, sort of you're on to other things.
Yes. But right now, what entertains you and makes you laugh these days?
No, oh God, I don't really know.
You watch some television and you get amused by your friends and where you're living now?
Yeah, exactly, yes.
And I suppose company now where you're living, that is all important to you, isn't it? The companionships that you have now.
Of course, yes, that's very important.
Yes.
Yeah.
You probably generate your own amusement, and I know you can have a wicked sense of humour, Sheila Wilcox.
Oh dear. Now, who said that, and what was it, for heaven's sake? Oh, yeah.
Well, it's been wonderful to catch up with you, Sheila, and take a look back down memory lane. It's been a remarkable career, and I was thinking of some recent videos that I've watched of you competing in badminton and Harewood. You were talking about...
Harwood, yes. My girl.
Yes, Harwood. There you go.
Harwood.
Black and white footage of you competing in those days, and it really is a testament when one looks at your accomplishments of how you really did set the sport on a footing for the young women today and of course to compete in the Olympic Games, which was
well
denied.
Exactly, yes, that is important, I must say. Yeah, that was very important.
And I suppose also when you see how the sport has developed in Great Britain particularly, and they are still and continue to be arguably the leading nation in the sport, that must also give you some pleasure, Sheila.
Oh, yes, I think that's marvellous. Yeah, yep. And I suppose in time, I shall look back and say, my word, I did all that. But at the moment, or at least at the moment, and what I did before, so that I'm talking to you and everybody, it just went on.
Yes.
It really did. It just went on.
It just evolved.
One thing after another, yes. I would see this and see that, etc., and realise what one could do with, particularly, horses that most people would turn their nose up at. And I would sort of look around and say, yes, I think I could do something with this. I did a lot of that sort of thing.
Yes, amazing what you were able to spot in a horse. And
yeah.
And the sign.
I was lucky. Yeah, I was lucky like that, you see.
Well, I think it was probably more than luck. It was the sign of good horsemanship too.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, yeah.
And also considering that you did not come from a horsey background, you didn't have early influences. You really made your own way, and you've always been one to really row your own boat, haven't you?
Yes, yeah.
And we'll continue to, I'm sure. There's no turning Sheila Wilcox.
No, I don't think so.
Well, Sheila, it's been an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you. Thank you so much for taking a trip down memory lane with me.
Not at all. Thank you very much.
Well, what a pleasure it was to have the opportunity to speak with Sheila again after all these years. But very sadly, Sheila passed away in 2017. If you would like to hear more of these episodes with conversations with women in the sport of eventing, dressage, show jumping and beyond, then do tune in to The Horse Show here on Wisp Sports. And there, of course, are a lot more sports covered here on Wisp Sports. Just go to the website at wispsports.com and find the selection there on the website, and by following us on social media at Wisp Sports. Until the next time, thank you for listening.